Hey, this is the master mentalist Erik Dobell from Impossibilities.
And I'm Mike Fowler from Fowler's Clayworks.
And this is What's Up Gatlinburg?
What's up?
I don't know. I only had one clever answer to that once.
What was that?
My cholesterol.
Oh,
That's what I tell everybody when they say what's up.
It's nonstop with this guy.
And recently that answer stopped being a joke.
Yeah.
The joys of getting older.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in the 40-somethings now.
40-something. I'm at an age now where I have to calculate.
I gotta think it's
I have a hard time remembering what year it is, and I'm like, what am I now?
Yeah, I broke 50, so it gets better, buddy.
Oh, boy. Just
Ron's not commenting.
slowly marching towards death.
I have you both beat, so.
Well, let's get to that. So, our guest today, Mr.
Hello there, my name is Ron Crivellone. I don't expect you to both try and pronunciate that last name.
No. No, that's not going to happen. What is that, Italian?
It is Italian.
Okay.
I'm an Italian-Irish from Chicago.
My wife's
Really?
Italian-Irish from the Boston area,
There you
so,
go.
yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, I guess, and as we all know, weddings are a big part of the area, and you're part of that industry, huh?
Yes. That has been my, pretty much my passion and career for about 30-some years.
Okay.
So, we have a company, my wife and I operate together in the area called Smoky Mountain Sounds, where we provide DJ entertainment. I also officiate. We do photo booth. And so every weekend, it's pretty much, we get the honor of being a part of someone's big day.
Yeah. So how did you get into that?
The short answer is puberty. The long answer is, after a certain point, I realized that I was, I guess, first in my class to have that deep voice. And so I think it was about 6th grade. I tried out for a play and I didn't get the play, but the teacher's like, how would you like to be the announcer for it? And so that's what I did. And so as I got older, my mom worked at a recording studio when I was younger. So I was kind of in the world of, seeing how all that played out, like voiceovers and sessions and all that.
Really?
And that was in the city of Chicago. And so by the time I got my teens, Chicago being one of those big markets for radio and everything.
On Chess Records.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Home of the blues and all that.
I know it well.
I just really started gravitating toward the music scene with it. And of course, one of the distinctions that Chicago has too, back in the late 70s, is DJs would start in their basements by playing music. Just for themselves, and started mixing songs together and got good at it. Well, that became what they call house music. And so that really inspired into the clubs back in the 80s and all that. And so I really started gravitating toward that, wanting to learn all about that. And as I got older, my voice seemed to carry more into that MC role. So therefore, by the time I got into junior high school, people were like, hey, we'd like you to be the voiceover. Would you MC this or MC that? And so by the time it came to graduation, I decided, let's go to college for it. And so that's what I did. And so initially, my goal was to be on the radio, but then realizing how much money at that time there was not in it to get started, I needed to supplement income. And so therefore I started researching of, what's the world of the DJ like? What do they do? And so, of course, being in the Chicago area, unlimited resources available to you, I just happened to land a couple places that were really involved in the business with weddings and just high schools, proms, junior highs, all that. And so by the time I started getting my feet wet with that, the radio business had become like a shadow. And that's kind of where I went full force into this.
Man, heck of background there.
Yeah. So, and it's just, it's something I've always enjoyed. It's one of those things to where starting out as someone who's kind of an introvert, forcing yourself into situations that force you to be an extrovert. And that's what I did. I forced myself to be around people, to get used to being around groups, to learning how to talk and react and not be afraid. And, especially if someone heckled you or something like that, I just kind of learned, how to combat that, but in a way I could use humor to not be offended by it.
Yeah. Right.
And so that really helped me grow in ways that I not necessarily became the life of the party, but that I could feel comfortable in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are the life of the party in a lot of ways.
Yes, that is
You
what
are
it
the
is.
mood.
And
You
grow
are the
into
party.
that. But it's not always that way.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but I grew into that. I got myself immersed in that, and therefore it really helped me grow. You know, not only as a person, but as a young person, to understand the responsibility of what that is. And so it was something neat because at a young age, people are giving you these responsibilities. They're entrusting you on their wedding day, and the people are hiring you to do this.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was like, oh, hey, you know, I can make money and do this at the same time. That's pretty cool. So, and then as you get into the business, you start to realize all the other mechanics and things that go along with that responsibility.
Yeah.
So how'd you find Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, Sevier County? What brought the DJ here?
What brought the DJ here? So, I think it was back in the mid to late 80s, my mom actually belonged to a vacation group.
Okay.
And so they would, like, one year they'd go on a cruise, or they do this or they do that. And so one year I think the group came here to Gatlinburg. And she would tell me about it because she'd go to Gatlinburg or she'd go to Myrtle Beach or all these other destinations. And so I would hear about it. But I was, like, in my anti-country days. So I'd be like, why do I want to go south? What possibly would the South have to offer me? And so I would always balk at that idea.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the 90s, I get into a relationship. That relationship turns into a marriage. And her family actually came here because their mom had gotten married here. And so I started vacationing here. And so the first vacation I think I had here was like 95 or 96, and it turned out to be one of the best vacations I've ever had. I couldn't believe it. You know, we parked at a motel in Pigeon Forge and got on the trolley, and that was our transportation for the week. And I'm like going, wow, this area is really cool.
Yeah.
And so the next couple years of vacationed. Unfortunately, things happened with that relationship, but again, the future, you know, I happened to meet someone else whose family lived out here.
Okay.
And so just through that, it just seemed like, you know, each time I was here, I would discover something new. You know, thought, you know, it might be cool. You know, to live here might be cool, to see what the area's like. So in 2009, thinking at that time that I was going to be in a relationship, I moved out here.
Okay.
To give it a shot. And so even though things fell apart with that, it was one of those divine destiny moments where, you know, God said, yes, you moved out here, but not for the reason you thought you did. But just let me lead and you'll be fine. And that's kind of how it happened. So 1 month turned into 6. You know, I started to research the area, finding out that, oh my God, weddings take place, and it's a huge
very
area
big
for weddings.
wedding destination.
Yeah, big destination tourism. Yeah. And so I think it was really about 2010 is when I said, you know what, let's get back into it. Let's, you know, see what we do. And so from there it was just finding out that the different chambers do networking events and, you know, finding out, reaching out to the venues, introducing myself and saying, listen, if there's an opportunity, please let me know. And so that's kind of how the ball started rolling in this area. And so, you know, been doing it ever since, and I've been self-employed with it now for 10 years.
Oh, wow, man. Good
so
for
you ended up here because of puberty.
Kind of, yeah, long story. Yeah, kind of, sort of there, Eric. Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Of course, puberty's kind of the reason any of us do anything, I suppose.
Well, I mean, it's just, you know, it was one of those things where when I was younger, you always have those aspirations. I want to be a singer. I want to be this.
Sure.
Well, I was too short to be a baseball player.
We had this discussion about you being a wrestler.
Yeah.
I want to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can tell from the sound of my voice, but I'm 5'5".
And I'm about the same height. Yeah. So,
yeah, I don't know how tall you have to be
you're
a
not built
baseball
like
I
player.
would say at least,
No.
you know, 5'8"-ish maybe, you know.
5'8" for baseball?
I would think so. But it was just one of those things to where once I started on this path, you realize you're on the right path because things start falling into place. The doors start opening. The opportunities start coming. And even in this area, you know, it's like once I started doing a few events, people are like, okay, we like what you did. We'll give you a call. And it just, you know. That,
snowballed.
Yeah. And so, you know, to where it is today, you know, we get involved in the networking events just to be a part of the community and the wedding industry and just understanding, how social media has come into the whole process of, how the business operates and what is good for your business and to be seen.
Yeah.
And of course, the other hat that I wear with that is president of the Wedding Association.
Oh, okay.
So, that involvement came of, I was doing a lot of networking, and I guess people were starting to notice me. I was too busy trying to grow the business, not realizing other people going, okay, we need to kind of keep an eye on him. And so I had joined a couple of organizations to be a part of the community, to get my name out there, because that's what you do for business. One day, one of the co-founders of the organization called me up and said, I'd like to take you out to lunch. I said, okay. And said that they revealed that they were dealing with some very serious health issues, and they could no longer run an organization like they had been doing. They also realized that they needed to change because the area was changing, and how it started was not how it could continue running that way. So I was offered to come in as vice president of the organization for a year. That meant it gave me a place on the seat at the board, and also input on how things would run. And if it worked out the way they wanted to, then I would take the helm of the president, and that would be in 2016. And so we did that. They let me sit at the board for a year, and I shook things up. I said, this is how you've been running things. Here's where we need to go. And it wasn't nearly you're either with me or against me. It's if you don't, there won't be an association to run to be here to do that. And so in 2016, I took the helm and just started trying to get involved with, letting brides know about the Smoky Mountains, letting the venues know that there's another resource to help them get that exposure, and to help set up networking meetings, business after hours, and all these things to say, how can we, as a community, get to know each other? How can we come together? How can we help each other out that's going to help the future brides that come here? Yeah. And that's kind of been my mission since, along with running our business and being sure that we give the clients the experience they're looking for.
Because that allows you a lot of extra time to do all these other things.
Yeah,
right? So you've been president since 2016.
I have.
Wow.
I have.
So they must really like you.
Yeah, and that, of course, either that or no one else has wanted to step up. Yeah. I think the two of them both.
Well, and you must be good. They put faith in you.
Well, and it's a lot of me just boots to the ground. I really enjoy, I think, in all honesty, even though I'm not from here, we have such an awesome area.
Yeah.
I mean, the mountains here, the tourism that we have, the longevity of the businesses, the families that have been here to help create Gatlinburg to what it is today. If you don't appreciate being here, then something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And so I really love the area that we live in. I love the growth that I've seen. We've got, in my opinion, the city leaders understand the market and understand what it takes to continue to make it happen. So, being in the mountains each and every, the traffic, a little to be desired certain weekends, but when I think of the area that we have and I see the growth and tourism, being that we have the mountains as our backdrop, how can you not feel blessed to live here?
Yeah.
And that's my attitude about it. And every week that we get a chance to go to a venue or a cabin or hotel or whatever for a wedding and event, that's a blessing.
Man, it's pretty cool because, you're part of that big day. You hit on that earlier, We interviewed
Sarah and Tyler.
Yeah.
The Appalachian Wedding Company.
Yes.
And they shared that same sentiment, and it's pretty cool. They get to be a part of somebody's day,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing gig. A lot of pressure, though, too,
all
right?
All of us share that in some way,
It is a lot of pressure, but it's, it's one of those things to where you take on the challenge because it's something that you enjoy being a part of, and especially being a destination. I mean, every week it's, are they from California? Are they from Missouri, Texas, Alabama, New York, the Carolinas? I mean, so it's a different group with a different set of ideas and traditions that they bring here, and you get to be a part of some of that, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
And especially some of the areas that we have venues, I mean, you can't beat those views. You really can't.
Yeah, I think it's just part of the legacy here, whether you're from here or you've moved here and become part of it and been successful. We make these people welcome. That's what we all do.
Yeah.
it's not about myself. I mean, at the end of the day, I got to pay rent, but it's about that. It's about that guest experience. You know,
it is, and I think what more and more people have learned is that when it comes to the weddings or even the visitation here, a lot of people I'm probably 3 or 4 generations that have come to this area for vacation. Yeah. So it's about them creating their own experiences here.
A lot of destinations you hear of in the country and in the world, it's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
And what you just said, man, I mean, we've got, 5, 4, 5, 6 generations, man. I mean, and
come every year, sometimes multiple times a year.
Multiple times,
And I attribute that to, knowing that, as a new generation comes of age, how do we promote to that taste? Mm-hmm. What businesses do we need to look at that need to be in this area in order for that to happen for them? Mm-hmm. And I think that's been key to the growth. And when you look at, the visitation, that speaks for itself. And of course, the Smoky Mountains being the most visited national park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
killer backdrop, man.
Yeah. And you look at what we've been through the last 10 years with the park.
13 to 15
with all it's
million.
Gone through, and the fact that we've, not only survived, but we've
prospered.
Prospered. Yeah, thank you. We've prospered. And we've come around to go, we're tough.
Yeah.
We get kicked, whatever, but we bounce
spirit,
back.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely that pioneer spirit.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, I personally have been blessed to live here, but also to see of how our business has thrived, and man, that's awesome to me.
That's great. And I know for a fact, by the way, that he is very good at what he does, because we've actually done some gigs together.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's everyone has their own interpretation of what they think a DJ should be.
Yeah.
Even DJs have their own interpretation.
Yeah.
And what I've always attributed to is what I feel a DJ should be is he should be entertaining. Mm-hmm. He should be the one who takes command of the evening. Yeah, if you're working with a planner, that's fantastic. You work together seamlessly to make sure that night goes off without a hitch. The DJ should be the MC. He should be the person who is in the spotlight for certain things throughout the night, but not forgetting why he's there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. And so when you get events that aren't weddings, that are corporate events and other things, then that's when you come up with other activities that you could do to be a part of that, to give them that experience as well, not just go, well, I'm just going to stay over here for 2 hours and play music.
Yeah, because it's, I imagine it probably depends on the gig, but a lot of what you do is interactive, right?
It is.
Playing games and setting up square dancing or whatever they want to do.
Well, yeah,
I'm not sure why square dancing came to mind.
I
was doing it the other night.
Yeah, I think it's you've got to find your niche of what works for you.
Yeah.
As far as our main thing is weddings. So that's where I gear toward knowing that, getting to know the couple of what are your tastes.
Yeah.
What are the vibe you're wanting, and that's the vibe that I help create for them that night. The other things that we do is we can host trivia nights, we can host karaoke nights, different things like that. Square dancing, not so much. But, we try and be open-minded to the different calls that come in to see, is this something that we can do successfully for that client? If we know that we can, then we do that. If not, then I recommend someone who's more feasible for that. Because I'm a big believer in not everyone is your client. And so to be fair to them, send them to someone who's more suitable for them.
Yeah, sure. No, that's just good business, man.
Yeah, and that's something I truly believe.
You mentioned karaoke. Do you do any gigs like in the area locally, like public performances, I guess?
Not really the last couple years. I've done a couple restaurant things, but most of what I do right now are private.
Privates, yeah.
Yeah, I'm more, if a place wants to do it, that's fine. I'm not... This is going to sound weird, but I'm just not that late night person anymore.
Yeah. No, that doesn't sound weird.
So like a bar that wants to stay open until 1 or 2 in the morning or 2:30, great, fantastic. I hope you have the people. I'm just not that person anymore. Where a restaurant wants to have something from like 6 to 8 or 8 to 10, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with that. So, but with the karaoke, it's mainly just been private events for the last couple of years.
Okay.
Hone in on what you're good at, man.
Yeah. For that wedding that wants it, or that rehearsal dinner or that bachelorette party that comes in and goes, hey, I got 30 people coming, karaoke for 2 hours, what's your price? Here you go.
Here you go.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me to hire somebody to do karaoke. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Because I am not doing karaoke publicly, but among friends, maybe. Yeah, that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing, like I say, with the area, there's so much to do and so much that you can be present with. You know, that it's like I say again, it's just a great area to be.
You're getting me excited to be here, and I'm already here. Yeah.
Well, and you know, it's about opportunity. I've been given the opportunity to do a couple things, and I've tried to do my best with them, and you know, each year we have new businesses that come into town.
Yeah.
So, you know, wedding businesses or retail or what have you. So I think it's great that, you know, people come in and say, hey, we'd like to try and see if this business works here.
Yeah.
You know, like every year there's a new venue that's opened up, you know, or a new place. And I'm like, I think that's awesome. You know, I think it shows that as the area is growing, we need more variety.
Yeah.
Because a lot of couples are looking for that uniqueness. And the more that we have to offer, the more that makes it attractive for people.
And I think that's a big part of the growth area scene is the variety we have, you know. It's not a bad thing.
No.
You know, a visitor can, God, even for a wedding, come here for several days, accommodate everybody they need to accommodate.
Yeah.
Have their special day with you while the guests are waiting for all that stuff to happen. They can go see the national park, tour the art and craft community, take in a show with Erik.
Make some pottery.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things, you know, and I agree with you completely. The more variety, the better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it makes the area unique, and therefore if, you know, someone who grew up coming here but now has chosen this area to get married, they can now make their memories their own. And they can separate that from the memories they had with their parents, and I think that's what makes this area special.
It does, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and the businesses come in, man, you see it, you know, it's, I love the variety, you know, and if they come in and take the guest experience well and do the networking right, and you see it all the time, you know, businesses that stay, you know, it's a direct reflection of that person.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not all into it, then, you know, it may not be the best place, but the ones that are here, we put on, or not put on, because what we represent is how we are.
Sure. And I know that whenever I book the couples and I see where they're coming from, I always say, here's just a list of things you might want to think about coming to the area, something for your guests, you know. People come in for a weekend and be like, oh my God, this has so much to this area. I'm like, you want to think about coming in the future? And they're like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
come every year to celebrate your anniversary, which a lot of people do.
They do.
Yeah, anniversaries
do.
are a big thing, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, every year they come here.
I get a lot of anniversary people in this classroom setting, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and the opportunity. I guess that's something I've always kind of thought about, but never really articulated. But the opportunity, because I've lived in different places where I've joined like the chamber and things like that, and it just you kind of just feel like an outsider. But I never felt that way here.
Yeah.
As soon as I came in, I felt welcome.
Yeah.
Which is odd.
Well, and I think it's because and let's put it this way. Yes, we have 14 million people who visit this area per year, but if you think about it, the attractions, the restaurant owners, all that, everyone knows each other.
There's only 4,000 people that live in Gatlinburg, right? Is it something like that?
Not sure. I thought between the three cities, I thought it was something like a population of, 80,000?
The Sevier County, I looked into this during 2020. In 2020, the county population was 98,000.
Okay, so yeah. So...
And
I mean,
Gatlinburg, last I heard, I think like 3,400 residents.
Yeah.
And I might be off on that, so please don't hang me for...
That's just Gatlinburg, but the point is, like, even though it feels like a big area because of the tourism, it's still a small town.
It is.
Oh, God.
It is. I mean,
even with that number, good Lord, 100,000, you could have that in a suburb of...
That's not a lot of people.
Chicago or something.
Atlanta or, you know.
So, I mean, to me, that's what makes it great because, I mean, if my wife and I go out for dinner somewhere, we're bound to run into somebody. Like, hey, how you doing that? And I love that. I love that no matter how the area's grown between Gatlinburg, between Pigeon Forge, between Sevierville, that they do all these things to give it that feel.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's also why you always got to be on your best behavior.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
I was going to think about that when I'm driving.
and our chambers, in our chamber of commerces at all three cities, they're very connected with their cities or their tourism board, and that information that's acquired, from state tourism, United States tourism, all that information comes in, or even from the city websites.
Yeah.
That's made available to all of us,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
helps us.
Yes.
As part of the reason we talked about starting a podcast like this was so that businesses like ourselves that may not be of the larger
Sure.
echelon had, an opportunity to get some spotlight, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to disappear in the mix here.
It really is. It really is, because there's always so much going on.
There's so much going
and
on.
a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation.
No.
But a lot of people have a lot of different opinions that may not always be accurate to what.
Correct.
And so, like, one thing I've learned about this area is technically it's considered the wedding capital of the South. There are times to when, especially during COVID, we were beating Vegas in numbers.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, Vegas was practically shut down too.
I know. That's why it was like a fun little ride there.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's neat to me to see how the area's progressed in many different areas, not just one. From accommodations to cabins, attractions to weddings to all that. It's kind of like on steroids.
Yeah.
Of how it's grown.
Hello and bye.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So,
For anybody listening, somebody just popped their head in to say hi to Mike.
But I think that's what has. I feel that I got lucky when I moved here, not realizing what the area was like, and then once I started doing my homework, I'm like, oh, weddings are big here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just putting in the time, putting in the work to get it to where it's at, and so.
So do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that Vegas has more Elvises than we do, even though we're Tennessee?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Well, because here's the thing about it. I think that, and someone who just went to Vegas in November, because I went for the wedding MBA.
Yeah.
I think what we have here, and even though we don't have as many chapels as we used to have,
Right.
okay, we still have it to where, in my opinion, it's very easy for someone to get a marriage license in the state of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
All they need is a driver's license, state ID, and your social security card. That's it. And for someone who doesn't live in the state, it's like $40 and some change. You come here, you can get married, and you can go back home. But you can get married at a waterfall, you can get married at a cabin, you can get married at a chapel, wherever you want, and it has something about the mountain area that makes it special. Vegas, to me, has kind of, and again, if you get someone who critiques this, that's fine, it's got the cheese to it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by it, just
Cheese
because,
whiz.
because you can still, the chapel's there, Elvis marries you, or, this person, and I'm like, because I was just there, and what did I do in some of my off time? I went to go look at the chapels. And you're looking at how they do things, and you thought to yourself, this does exist. Okay. And they're telling you how they do it, and like, oh yeah, we can have 15 couples in a day, and we can do this, and there's our guy, and the guy looks at you
15?
with his Elvis hairdo and go, I'm like going, okay. That's their market, and that's what works for them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have different options here.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. I guess we could find it around here if someone wanted to get
If
married
somebody
by
want,
Elvis.
you find anything, but for the most part, we're genuine.
Yeah,
man.
we're genuine. It's come here, you can get married pretty much anywhere you want. If you want to get married in the park, all you got to do is, register to get a permit. You're gold.
Gold.
So I think that's what makes our area attractive, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
Growing up, we had an area similar to that in Illinois, near Illinois, but it was in Wisconsin, called the Wisconsin Dells.
Yeah, I've heard of the Dells.
And to me, that was always the more cheesier thing because of how it was set up.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is kind of more legit.
Yeah.
More built around family fun, not necessarily ripping your dollars off and saying thank you, don't let the door hit you.
Yeah.
I hate to be cynical, but I'm a little curious what the divorce rates might be compared to here to Vegas now. Because they have drive-through.
We had a drive-through.
We had a drive-through.
We had a drive-through.
We did. I remember my wife and I honeymooned
It was located in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore.
Nope.
Oh,
It is
okay.
now a CBD
It's
store.
a dispensary.
Yeah.
the drive-thru
chapel. So they sold the business, and the person now owns it has that same name, but in a different area off the Parkway. But we did have a drive-thru. Yes.
Yeah, my wife and I cracked up. Like I said, we honeymooned here, and that was one thing. Then, fast forward when we moved here 3 years later, and then when I opened the shop, I actually became really good friends with somebody that got married.
Really?
Still married to this day.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Okay.
In answer to your question, here's what I will say about that. I'm sure that it is high. And here's what I'll say about how the wedding business has changed that way. The piece of the pie of the wedding industry has gotten smaller. And it's gotten smaller because a generation has not found where they've got to rush to get married.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason being is there's a lot of things you can blame it to. You can blame it on finances. You can blame it on, not being able to afford the things that maybe the generation before them could afford.
Yeah.
Okay. What I know, the trend that we've seen the last 5 years in the wedding industry is that, and the gene pool. Maybe the women have matured a lot quicker than the men and being able to find a suitable mate. I don't know. But what I've noticed the last 5 years is that a single woman who gets into her teens, into her 20s, who's just not found anyone, they'll get a dog. And that dog will be like their best friend, the person they can hang out to because the dog's loyal. What I've noticed is the dog has been responsible for them meeting the person that they marry. And the reason behind that is because, and I've always felt that sense, is dogs know who's legit and who's not. Dogs have that sense about people.
That's why I don't like dogs. They just bark whenever I walk by. It's
maybe
it's
something you need to take care of there, Eric. I don't know.
Well, I just don't want to be exposed.
Non-stop.
But what we've noticed is that they'll be out and about, and a guy will come up and start petting the dog or something, and before you know it, they've started a conversation, and she'll look at the reaction and going, wow, okay. Before you know it, they've exchanged numbers.
That's the dog thing actually works. That's funny.
And so what I've seen the last 5 years, I can't count how many times a dog has been a part of that wedding, and more often than not, the groom will say, if it weren't for that dog, I wouldn't be here. And like the dog's also become his best friend as well.
Sure.
I feel like Sarah said something about a cat they did one time. Something to do with the cat holding a ring or something.
I've seen a cat at one wedding. More often than not, it's a dog. But
dogs are a lot smarter.
I think you're also seeing too, like COVID kind of changed the game too, because a lot of people may have had plans, but they had to cancel them. They had to maybe drop out of school or move back in with family, what have you. So now we're noticing the last couple of years they've, gotten back in school, they've gotten a job, they've been able to do this, do that. So now we're seeing that the engagements, the people who have had to put things on hold, we're seeing a bigger engagement. So I think this year, next year, will we see more engagements that will lead to more weddings, is what I'm seeing, especially with what the leads have come in so far this year for us. And I can only assume that means the other businesses have been getting just that much, if not more.
That's really interesting. I never thought about the COVID aspect of that. But I guess for a lot of young people, it probably did just put their lives on hold.
Well, yeah, because you've got to figure that even though, let's say, and here's another reason why I appreciated this area, because after a certain point, our business leaders here understood that a lot of mom and pop shops. So we've got to get back to work. So what did they do? Just use your own judgment on your own protocol as far as masking up or social distancing, but you can open.
Yeah.
Other places, other states were closed for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, I was serving on the Gatlinburg Convention and Visitor Bureau Board, and we were talking to other destinations, and we had opened up.
Yeah.
Like you said, use your own discretion.
Exactly.
Nobody really knew the truth of what was going on, as we all find out. But use your own discretion, make your own rules, and businesses did that, you know. And we opened up, and we carried on, and we did fine.
Yeah, I mean, toward the end of 2020, I'm actually having a decent year.
Yeah.
Where all my friends going, what? Wait, you're working?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're like, wow.
And that year we found out, too, that this county, because the rest of the state was pretty much shut down, this state carried the fiscal budget for the, this county carried the state's fiscal budget.
Think of how crazy that is.
That is insane.
Sevier County carried the state.
Yeah, I know. We carried the state tax revenue.
Yeah.
Crazy?
Did we get a gold watch?
But I mean, what I think it showed it showed the value of who we are as a community, and not only that, but it got the leaders or Nashville to kind of look at us more seriously. Going, if they're asking for stuff, then now we might want to start looking at what we can help them with.
Yeah.
Not that we're there yet. I mean, I still kind of wish they would put the other exit there before the Buc-ee's opened up, but I do like how they did it because it's not as backed up as I thought it would be.
Right.
It's backed up.
Yeah.
It's backed up.
But then I think that's still the normal flow. No, I mean, I just, the area has shown its resiliency, and we've come back each time stronger than ever.
Yeah.
And, I think that what we as a community have done has been to let people know when something happens, something may have happened, but we're here.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're open for business. Don't let that deter you.
We have a Buc-ee's.
They just released it in 2024. Buc-ee's was the number 2 attraction.
Somebody
in this county.
Somebody was telling
Behind
me.
Dollywood.
Oh, behind Dollywood. Okay,
Yeah.
somebody was telling me they
Dollywood's
make
number
more
1.
money than Dollywood. Yeah. So Dollywood's still number 1.
Yeah.
Let's face it. That
As far
was,
as visitors, number 2.
That was the biggest Buc-ee
probably
in
what
the
they meant.
United States when that opened.
Yeah.
But the owners have recently opened up a bigger one in Texas, which is where it's from.
Yeah.
But that
Outdo
was
Texas.
the big. Yeah, I know. Bigger is better in Texas always. But
It
I'm like,
is.
oh my God, seriously.
That place is so bizarre.
It is.
If you haven't been, if you don't know what a Buc-ee's is, basically it's a really big gas station / Target.
On steroids.
Yeah. You go in there, they have clothes, plush of the, what is he, a gopher?
Yeah, Buc-ee's, the
Buc-ee's
mascot,
a gopher.
the gopher.
Yeah, Buc-ee's a gopher. You could buy
Plus
Buc-ee,
branded merchandise.
Yeah, you can buy Buc-ee's merchandise, basically. You got pajamas, shirts, plush. They have weirdly good food.
They did, actually.
Yeah. Their food there's really good. If you're ever driving by a Buc-ee's, it's crazy to say
It's an
this because it's a
experience.
gas station, but it's actually worth checking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
It's strange. Up north we had Sheets. Did you have Sheets?
Not where I come from, no.
Okay, yeah.
I know
Sheets
that
was
that's big in North Carolina, too.
Sheets was kind of like that. I don't think they had the merchandise, but they had
Where I came
really
from,
good food.
you had Pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, yeah.
That's a Tennessee
a travel
company.
center.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you had where I come from.
Yeah, Buc-ee's blows them all out of the water, though.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's got like 150 pumps or something like that. But
Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But they don't have Ron DJing, so.
They do not. Well, but they might. Have you talked to them about DJ? Do you think they want some strolling magic too? People
No,
pumping gas. You want to see a card trick?
I just, with my business, I think everything that I've seen that's come here that's succeeded, to me, I count as a blessing
Yeah.
of something more that people have to do while they're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
what I've seen it as.
Yeah.
And to me, it's I'm of the mindset to where I'm hoping that I can be here for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
We always talk about where else would we move. I'm like, Florida, no. I don't want to move back up north. I like the winters here. I'm not ready. I don't want to go back up north for those winters again.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like I'm in the spot to where I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm from upstate New York, and I'm already used to the weather here. Like I'm freezing today.
Yeah, see, I'm not.
Yeah, I guess
got
you're
this
still used to that
fluffiness going
Chicago
on,
weather.
so-
Yeah.
I was the one New Year's Eve. I was at the venue called the Trillium, and everyone else had a jacket, and I'm not. And they're like, "Are you freezing?" I'm like, "I'm really
Yeah.
not.
I'm from Chicago.
I'm not. Sorry. I just
Yeah, the winters here too. I don't know what they're like in Chicago, but the winters here, when it snows, it's so pretty.
It's
Oh my
beautiful
God.
here, and I would say that a couple weeks ago we had the 5 or 10 degrees. We were having Chicago weather.
Yeah.
The temperatures.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
I'm like, okay, we had snow. You can leave now.
Yeah, it's time to go.
It's time to go. Even I was like, I don't like to wake up and start the car and have the car give me the same reaction when in Chicago. I'm like, no. So I was like, with those temperatures going,
Everybody
no.
finds out how quick or how many dead batteries there is.
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a good time for the auto parts store.
The ice too. I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times I was walking to the mailbox and I almost because it would melt during the day and then at night it would drop.
Right.
And then everything would freeze over. So our whole parking lot was just a sheet of ice.
Yeah. No, trust me, our house is on a little bit of a hill, and so there was one day we had to park the
goodness.
vehicle at the bottom and not getting up that hill.
Yeah.
So, being in the weddings, 10 years of it, you said, here?
Well, 10 years in this area.
Yeah, 10 years
Yeah.
in this area.
30 years as a DJ. Yeah.
Any memorable, moments that just stick out, or off the cuff? It could be sentimental, whatever.
No, I think what I could tell those stories, but I won't. Sorry. Wedding etiquette.
Yeah, I understand.
No, I think that, you have to understand that you're going to have different personalities that you run into every weekend in this business. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And you have to understand the reason you're there. And I think that as a disc jockey, or DJ I should say, I take it seriously of the reason I was hired, and that my goal is to make sure that every weekend I go in and I exceed the expectations of what's expected. And that's from everything from just networking with the group while they're there, having a good time, just being that friendly face. That way by the end of the night they're like, oh my God, that was fantastic. And that's what you want. You work on behind the scenes making sure you've got the enunciation of the names correct, and making sure you've got the timing of all the different elements. Therefore, when the day comes, you're doing it seamlessly, like anyone goes, man, I could do that. Here, go for it. That's my reason behind it. As far as the stories, there are a lot, but I will not do that here.
Yeah, you don't DJ and tell.
No, sorry, I won't do that.
Fair enough.
But yes, if a wedding vendor ever wrote a book on it, yeah.
Make some good TV.
Surely somebody has.
Yeah, definitely. That's reality TV.
Yeah.
But no, I think to me, it's just like, for the most part, from my perspective, couples have been great, families have been great. Of course, just the partakers of alcohol every weekend, it becomes what it becomes.
Oh boy. Actually, I got some stories now.
Yeah. So but other than that, it just, every week it's a blessing to be a part of something, and my goal is always to go in and just give them that experience.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
So I, of course, I have a website. It's Smoky Mountain Sounds. That's either with an E or without. I know people tell me I spelled it wrong, but that's just how I felt it should be spelled, as a Yankee.
I actually don't know how to spell it.
Well,
you
can do either SMOKEY or just SMOKY. SmokyMountainSounds.com. I have either of those domain names. I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
With the business page Smoky Mountain Sounds.
Okay, perfect.
And then, of course, the Wedding Association also has a website, Smoky Mountain Wedding Association.com or SMWBA.com, and they also have a Facebook page.
Is that sort of like a nice, like if you're planning coming to the area for a wedding, is that
It's
like
a resource.
like a nice little hub?
Yeah,
where a lot
just
of
kind of
people are?
resource. Check out different wedding professionals, from flowers to officiants, caterers, venues, all that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really
Ron.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you for reaching out to me, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you coming on here. You got any more questions?
No, I think I'm good, Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and if you ever have something in part of a future podcast, feel free to reach out to me.
Sure.
Yeah. No. Well,
Yeah, we plan on checking back with all our guests and kind of keep this rolling,
Yeah. Well, again, as I say every week, if you listen to this podcast and you enjoyed it, please subscribe, please follow us, please share it with your friends and family. If you listen to this podcast and you hated it, please follow, please subscribe, please share it with your friends and family. Maybe I should cut that second part out.
No, I think it's good, but just don't listen to Eric.
Surely you don't hate this podcast. You wouldn't have listened to it this far. But my name is Erik Dobell.
And I'm Mike Fowler.
And that was What's Up Gatlinburg. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
This is where we chit-chat about things while the music's going. It's banjo music, and then it kind of fades out.
Okay.
It gives it a real casual feel.
Awesome.
So how about that sports team you like?
The Cubs, well, we'll see what their season's going to be like.
Cubs, yeah.
The Bears, they've got hope. They just replaced some of their coaching staff.
There's a Cubs and a Bears?
Chicago Cubs is the baseball team, and the Bears are the professional football team.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Really?
That's cute.